All right, got another Fabric Tip Friday here. Just thought of this. Been aiming to do one. I may have some mentions of it in some others. We do test constantly. We have to for FAA on flexibility and different things, hideability, what have you, on our primers and our products for the PMA. And this is just a 2x4 frame here. Thought about this. Our primer, as I've mentioned 100 times, is designed to go wet onto dry fabric and soak into fabric. I don't care what anybody says, there's no product sticks to the Dacron style fabric. It all is a mechanical bond. This fabric does not melt with chemicals or anything, nothing etches into it, it all goes in. Our primer goes directly to dry fabric. That's what everybody likes about our system. You put the fabric on, you stretch it, you go 2 to 3 coats of primer, sand it, put the paint on. You're done. There's no poly brush or brushing in a layer of glue under your different primers and everything. And with that said, it has to go in wet. I tell everybody, whenever you're covering something, you know, we glue the edges down and stuff, and people have a tendency to want to glue around a leading edge or something, around a trailing edge, and glue it, and then stretch it, and think that they can just prime it because the heat stretched around the leading edge. With the AirTech system, you need to glue down to any hard surface. You do not need dry fabric just laying over it. Here's the reason. Everybody says, well, I've covered my planes with this other product for 30 years and we never did that. No, yes, you did. You did glue it down because you brushed on this whole layer of poly brush, or with a Star Gloss system, or with Stewart's or whoever. You put something on that fabric before the sprayed primer. Here's what happens. When you put the layer of glue down, you block the weave. Okay, on the open raw fabric, when we spray primer, it hits the fabric and it starts to soak through. It can't go but just so far, and I guess if you put enough of it, it would drip through, but it's a heavier body. You're going into the fabric. Your next layer stands up on it. This test here is not glued down. Just for time, I always just come around here with a staple gun, go around the edge of something, stretch it, and do it, because I'm doing the test out of the center part, not the side. All right, that stretched right around this 2x4. If this was an aircraft part, I would have laid a base down right here, because you're naturally going to put a tape right here anywhere it leaves a hard surface. And putting a tape right here would probably cure the problem and not have this. But on an open leading edge or something, a larger area, you just have the tape at the edge in this other part. What happens is you're spraying the primer, it's soaking in, it's leveling out, but wherever it's going over something hard, it's doing the same here, is the same here, but because there's something under it and it's not glued down, or it doesn't have the weave filled with at least 1 coat of thin glue, the part under it is dry and it's wicking it from you, and it's pulling the fabric, pulling the primer. I don't know if I can get this to focus down real good on it. Maybe right there. You see that? That part was primed right across that, but do you see those little pinholes? That is because that 2x4 was dry underneath, and that 2x4 has primer on it, and it wicked it away and left a pinhole. You will not fix that pinhole with sandpaper because there's no primer in it to fix it. You're going to have to flood that, and you start trying to come back later and flood that. There's a surface tension situation with that little hole. You'll keep piling primer, and having to block sand. Next thing you know, you've sanded the edge of this hard point. You've cut your fabric. I've had guys that I've explained to them in the beginning. Guys always wet something, and then they'll turn around and just ignore me because I'm a novice at this whole fabric game, I guess. And then they'll call me back, oh, it did just what you said it would do. Now I need help fixing it. And I've got to the point, I tell them, I go, just need to cut the whole fabric off and redo it because you're not following instructions. This is what you'll end up with. And when you do, you have got a mess. You've spent all this time and money, and because I don't care if another system does something different, with AirTech system, I'm telling you what you need to do to avoid this. So, and it may, You know, you may have a little spot that this may happen to. You can come back with a brush and force some primer in it and sand it smooth. That's fine. But when you back up and you have spent 80 hours covering a set of wings and then you spray them with primer and the whole leading edge looks like this, you might as well spent 80 hours on the lake somewhere. It would have been a lot cheaper than doing all the work and covering that wing, because to make it right, you're going to have to redo it. So that's the situation going over a dry surface. I keep telling everybody you need, and not that we're trying to glue it to it. It's just a matter of putting a base of glue down first before you cover, thinking of a wing or whatever. Everywhere fabric's going to touch, get a base of glue down. The premise of it is once you stretched across it, there's places it may not be touching that, but it's just an idea of getting a base of glue down, because a lot of times you're double covering the leading edge anyhow, and you're going to put glue on it. Is getting that weave filled so that at least it will not soak in, or it will soak in here, but at least here, that little layer of thin glue will block that hole, and that part underneath will not pull it through.